Alex Caruso, this guy went from undrafted to All-NBA defender and champ. NBA's top defenders are supposed to be freak athletes with 7-foot wingspans. Not this guy.
So they switch it. Dangerous pass! And Barnes ripped it away from Caruso. Knocked away! Loose ball! Caruso! DeRozan! To the rim! Got it!
Yet here's Alex Caruso locking down superstars, diving for loose balls, and shifting games without even needing to score. And in 2016, every single NBA team looked at him and went, nah. 0 teams, 0 draft picks, 0 hype. To be fair, nothing about Caruso screamed NBA ready. He wasn't the gym's fastest, strongest, or most explosive guy. His hairline was playing more defense against him than some of his matchups. And yet, 9 years later, the bold Mamba has a championship ring, all-defensive team nod, and is one of the most sought-after role players in the league. So how does a guy who went completely undrafted become this valuable? Let's break down this unlikely rise, the skills that make him elite, and why every coach in the NBA wants an Alex Caruso on their team. Before he was frustrating NBA superstars, before the championship ring and all defensive team honors, Alex Caruso was just a lanky, mop-haired kid in College Station, Texas, with something to prove. Basketball was in his DNA. His father was a Texas A&M Associate Athletic Director, but let's be real, that doesn't get you a contract. From a young age, Caruso had an instinct for the game that separated him from his peers. While the top high school recruits were racking up mixtapes full of windmill dunks, Caruso was making his name the hard way, through hustle, defense, and a basketball IQ that was off the charts. At A&M Consolidated High School, Caruso wasn't the guy stuffing the stat sheet or breaking ankles. He wasn't on national recruiting rankings, and his highlight reel wasn't going viral. But ask any coach, and they'd tell you, this wiry kid played harder, fought faster, and disrupted everything. He wasn't out jumping opponents. He was outworking and outsmarting them. And yet college scouts barely noticed. Caruso didn't get offers from powerhouse programs. The scouting reports weren't kind. Not athletic enough, not skilled enough. So, instead of heading to a top-tier basketball school, Caruso stayed home and walked on at Texas A&M, a gamble that could have left him buried on the bench. Instead, he made himself impossible to ignore. Texas A&M was the perfect fit. The Aggies program had built an identity of toughness and defense, all things Caruso had in his DNA. Over 4 years, he transformed himself into a defensive specialist, racking up steals, assists, and making plays that didn't always show up in the box score. By his senior year, he was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year by CBS Sports and left as the program's all-time leader in assists and steals, a stat line that tells you everything you need to know about his game. He wasn't just good. He was the glue guy, the leader, the engine that kept Texas A&M running. By the time he left College Station in 2016, his name was etched in Aggies history. But NBA teams still weren't buying it. He was just another undrafted prospect. Being the defensive player in one of college basketball's toughest conferences wasn't enough to warrant one of the 60 draft picks. Caruso worked out for several teams ahead of the 2016 NBA draft, hoping to hear his name, perhaps late in the second round. Draft night came and went, 60 names announced, none of them Alex Caruso. Not one team took a chance. Despite his defensive prowess, despite leading his school in assists and steals, Caruso went undrafted. Scouts weren't convinced. They saw a player who lacked explosiveness. They questioned whether his defense would translate. And offensively, they didn't see enough upside to justify a roster spot. Caruso could have sulked, could have walked away. Instead, he did what he always did. He worked. Going undrafted meant taking the hard road, the G League grind that most fans never see. His first stop was the Oklahoma City Blue, where he spent his rookie season buried on the bench, averaging just 11 minutes a game. No spotlight, no Sports Center highlights, just empty gyms and long bus rides. It was a long way from the bright lights of the NBA, but Caruso didn't care. He just needed an opportunity. That shot never came in OKC. He was cut after one season. But in 2017, a bigger break arrived. The Lakers invited him to the Summer League as Lonzo Ball's backup. At first, he was just there to fill a spot in practice. Instead, he stole the show. The G League strips away all the BS, Caruso once explained. You either find your NBA skill or you're out. I knew I wasn't going to be a 20-point scorer, but I could be the guy who changes games defensively. While most G-Leaguers tried to shoot their way into NBA contracts, Caruso went the opposite route, diving for loose balls, taking charges, and locking down opponents. While others were chasing highlights, he was studying rotations and mastering the art of defensive disruption. But in a summer league game, that changed everything. Caruso didn't just play well, he outshined the main attraction. 18 points, 9 assists, and 4 steals, while leading the Lakers to a win. Suddenly, he wasn't just a random camp invite, he was a prospect. The Lakers, realizing they might have stumbled onto basketball's best-kept secret, signed him to a 2-way contract, making Caruso the first player in NBA history to go directly from the G League to the NBA on such a deal. A 2-way contract is basketball's version of the friend zone. You're not quite in, not quite out. You spend half your time in the G League, half your time on an NBA bench, and all your time wondering if today's the day you get cut. But for a guy who'd been overlooked his entire career, it was finally a foot in the door, and that's all he needed. In his rare NBA minutes, usually when games were already decided, Caruso played with the desperation of someone who knew this might be his only shot. Every loose ball was life or death. Every defensive possession was personal. By the 2019-2020 season, he had accomplished the basketball equivalent of turning water into wine, transforming a 2-way contract into a full-time NBA roster spot with the Los Angeles Lakers. And as the world would soon find out, he was just getting started. Caruso didn't look like your typical NBA star. With his thinning hair and rec league aesthetic, he resembled the guy who'd enthusiastically explain his fantasy basketball strategy to you at the water cooler, not someone throwing down lobs from LeBron James. But the second he stepped on the court, all doubts disappeared. He played with the fearlessness of someone who knew this might be his only shot. Every loose ball was a personal challenge. Every defensive possession was Game 7 of a finals, even in preseason matchups. And Lakers fans, a fan base that worships superstars, they fell in love with him for a different reason. He embodied grit, toughness, and the will to win. The legend of the bold Mamba was born. At first, it was just a playful nickname, a nod to his receding hairline, and the Mamba mentality he brought to the defensive end. But soon it became something more. Staples Center erupted every time he checked in, like he was the second coming of Magic Johnson. Every time he dunked or locked up a star, Twitter lost its mind. Even LeBron James himself started requesting Caruso in closing lineups, not for scoring, not for playmaking, but for his defensive brilliance and basketball IQ. When the greatest player of his generation points at you and says, "I want that guy guarding their best player in crunch time," well, coaches tend to listen. The box scores rarely captured Caruso's impact. 5.5 points per game doesn't exactly scream essential player, but the advanced stats told a different story. With Caruso on the court, the Lakers' defensive rating improved by 6.3 points per 100 possessions. That's elite impact for any player, let alone a former undrafted G-Leaguer. By the 2020 NBA playoffs, Caruso's role became even more crucial. The Lakers needed perimeter defenders to slow down the league's best guards, and Caruso stepped up. Dame Lillard, James Harden, Jamal Murray, one by one, Caruso made life miserable for them. His quick hands, relentless on-ball pressure, and defensive IQ became an undeniable part of the Lakers' success. Then came the NBA Finals, with a chance to close out the Heat in Game 6. The Lakers made the kind of decision that would have seemed laughable just 2 years earlier. They inserted Alex Caruso into the starting lineup for the most important game of the season. The result? A defensive masterclass and a championship-clinching win. When the final buzzer sounded, Alex Caruso had played the 7th most minutes on a title-winning team. Undrafted, overlooked, now an NBA champion. This wasn't just a feel-good underdog story anymore. Caruso had officially arrived. The scary part was his best years were still ahead of him. Despite being essential to the Lakers' 2020 title, Caruso found himself at a crossroads in the summer of 2021. He had done everything right, proved his worth, embraced his role, and solidified himself as an elite defender on a title-winning team. But when free agency arrived, the Lakers front office had a decision to make. Their salary cap situation was tight, and tough choices had to be made. Caruso wanted to stay. The Lakers claimed they wanted him too. But when LA's final offer came in far below market value, the writing was on the wall. His time in purple and gold was over. While the Lakers hesitated, the Bulls pounced. And just like that, the Caruso was headed to Chicago with a 4-year, $37 million contract. Lakers fans were left wondering how the team could spend $230 million on a roster but couldn't find $10 million a year for their defensive anchor. In Chicago, Caruso wasn't just a complimentary piece anymore. He was a leader on a young, hungry Bulls team, and in typical Caruso fashion, he wasted no time making his presence felt. From day one, he took on the NBA's most elite offensive weapons like a one-man defensive task force. Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Ja Morant, Devin Booker, didn't matter who it was. If you were an all-star guard, Caruso was your problem now. His defensive numbers were insane. Top 5 in steals per game, one of the league leaders in deflections and charges drawn, and holding opponents to some of the lowest shooting percentages among perimeter defenders. The Bulls weren't just better with him on the court, they were transformed. His energy, communication, and relentless effort set a new defensive standard in Chicago, and the league took notice. In 2023, Caruso was named to the NBA All-Defensive First Team, officially cementing his place among the league's elite defenders. At this point, opponents didn't fear Caruso because he was dropping 30 points. They feared him because for 48 minutes, he was going to make their lives hell. Every possession against him was a battle, and more often than not, Caruso won. After 3 seasons of defensive brilliance in Chicago, Caruso found himself on the move once again. The Bulls, looking to rebuild, traded him to the Oklahoma City Thunder in June 2024 for young guard Josh Giddey. But before leaving the Windy City, he collected one more accolade, his second consecutive NBA All-Defensive Team selection, this time on the second team. Adjusting to a new team is never easy, but Caruso, he just did what he always does, make an impact. His defensive intensity, leadership, and winning mentality quickly became the secret ingredient to OKC's young, talented roster. And the Thunder, they weren't about to make the same mistake the Lakers did years ago. In December 2024, they locked him up long-term, signing him to a 4-year, $81 million extension. No more uncertainty, no more fighting for a roster spot. Alex Caruso wasn't proving himself anymore. He was chasing rings. For every kid grinding in an empty gym, overlooked and doubted, Alex Caruso proves that heart, hustle, and defense can take you further than raw talent. Success isn't about rankings or hype. It's about betting on yourself, owning your strengths, and outworking everyone in the room. Because sometimes the most unexpected journeys lead to the biggest moments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more NBA content that goes beyond the highlights, and drop a comment on which player's journey you want to see next. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.